All right. Today's guest is Andrew Cox, co founder of Tremendous Health, someone with a powerful transformation story, transitioning from a 25-year career in finance to pioneering sound healing and corporate wellness. We'll explore how his journey has sparked a new sense of purpose and how he's helping others reconnect through sound, vibration, and awareness. Andrew, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
Absolutely. So, Andrew, for those who don't know, can you walk us through your journey from stockbroker to sound healer?
Yeah, of course. So, yeah, you're quite correct. I had 25 years as a stockbroker, but before that, I was always interested in music. When I left school, I was really keen to either be a stockbroker or a musician. And I tried the musician route first and ran out of talent. Probably in my early 20s, I realized that, okay, it's time to go and be a stockbroker. But I really enjoyed that. I really very much enjoy watching, companies present to us and looking at different stories and things. But it comes with a fairly high amount of stress. And what I didn't understand was how that stress impacts on the physical body. So there's obviously an emotional component, but there's also a build-up over time. For me, it built up and manifested in my digestive system. When I'm talking about it, I mean the feelings that I was harboring. So for me, I was holding on to regret. After the global financial crisis, I was unable to eat processed food. I was really only able to eat meat and vegetables. And I realized that, something was wrong, but I didn't know what it was. I hadn't made that connection. We're not really shown at school or here in the West, at least I was never taught that how important it is to let go of stress, not hang on to different emotions. So after years of seeing doctors and specialists, I started to see naturopaths and herbalists and skin specialists, alternative modalities like kinesiology. And it was really kinesiology that made a huge impact for me. I found very quickly that I went to a session, I couldn't even pronounce kinesiology. And in desperation, I went to see a lady who is a kinesiologist. And she, for those of you that don't know, kinesiologists use the muscles in your body, and they read the muscles in your body by applying gentle pressure in different parts of the body. So a very simple example would be a lady just pressing just gently against my arm, and then I would just meet that pressure. It's not an arm wrestle, it's just very much just a gentle push. And what happens is when we think of something that's stressful, when we think of something that, it could be something that maybe something that we're telling ourselves, like a story that we're telling ourselves, the body reveals that by oscillating the feeling in the muscles. So if the muscle's quite firm, and I was to say that my name was Bob, for example, which is obviously not true, then my muscle would weaken. And then if I was then to say that, my name was Jane, then the muscle would tighten up again. So it just oscillates backwards and forwards. So whenever the kinesiologist thinks of something that's stressful for me, my muscle reacts. So it's amazing that I was lying there and this lady who knew nothing about me was able to pinpoint the year and the month where, my troubles had begun. So they were related to my digestive system. And I was just blown away. I was amazed. And I just wanted to learn more about that. So that was the catalyst. That was the beginning of my journey. I was fascinated with how much information the lady was able to gather from me without knowing anything about me. So it was quite incredible.
Wow. So you had mentioned in an earlier chat that the health challenges played a big role. So how did you begin to even connect the stress and the physical illness?
Yeah, well, I was the kinesiologist. The session began. I nearly didn't even go. She was just in a very small room at not a particularly great area of Perth. I'm based here in Western Australia. So, and I was very skeptical and I went along and she asked me just to lie down. She said, what's the problem? And I said, well, I have digestive problems. I'm unable to eat any digestive food. At the time, I was managing my symptoms reasonably well. I'd had about 3 years of practice of elimination diets. But if I was to start eating some biscuits or anything that's processed, anything with sugar in it, I would have massive inflammation. My skin would be red in color. I was covered head to toe in eczema at times. Unable to leave the house. I didn't want anyone to see me like this. My skin was extremely dry. By the time I was seeing the kinesiologist, I was eating only meat and vegetables, and I found that the body was able to cope with that. And I was able to present and go out in public, but I knew there was something hugely wrong. And she very quickly just said, "Oh, it's to do with it's something that happened in 2007." Oh, what was it? August 2007. What were you doing? And I said, "Well, I was getting married, you know." But she's like, "Okay," and she's like looking at it. She goes, "And how was that?" And I said, "Oh, it was fine." I said, "It was very expensive." And she said, "Oh, okay." And then she's like feeling around. She says, "It is to do with money, but it's not to do with your wedding." She says, "Something to do with your work." And she goes, "Oh, do you work in banking or something?" And I said, "Yes." So I'm a stockbroker. And she didn't know what that was. She said, "So what, can you explain to me what that is?" So I explained, and then she looked at me confused, and she said, "So what was happening in August 2007?" And that was, of course, the beginning of the global financial crisis. And at the time, I was a derivatives trader. So that all made a lot of sense to me. And then she said, "Okay, the feeling that you're holding on to is regret." And I had regrets about some of the decisions that I'd made around that time. And I was blown away. I was like, "Well, how does that have anything to, how did you know that? And then how does that even impact on, like it's just stress. Like I've had stress, ever since I came into the industry, probably 8 years of stress. So why now? Why is it having an impact?" And then I learned, very quickly, and it seems obvious now, but I was very naive at the time, how holding on to stress will present in different ways for different people. The body has a memory and will park those emotions that we don't like into different organs or different parts of our body. It can show up in people's backs, the way that they
Mm.
smile. It can show up in their digestive system, as it did for me. And she was then able to amazingly allow me to let go of these feelings through using tuning forks, which are tuned to my meridians. So very much like a Chinese medicine philosophy or acupuncture, similar in the sense that she was using vibrations to help my body move that stress out. Now,
That's amazing.
I didn't turn up in a suit or anything. She didn't know who I was. I just came in a pair of jeans and a t-shirt. It was summertime. And I had I could feel like I was, I was crying. Like I didn't at the time. I was denying it. So I got up and I honestly said, "I think you've put some oil on my forehead, which has caused my eyes to water," and asked for some tea. And she just laughed and said, "No, I haven't touched you, like other than just pressing on your arm. Like you've been having a release." And I thought that was really amazing, and equally amazing that I was already in denial, like a classic guy just holding on to the emotions and trying not to reveal too much. But I left that session feeling fantastic. Like I absolutely floated out. And I remember talking to my wife as I was walking out, just going, "I never felt so good." Like I felt like that feeling that I once had when I went to Egypt. I was on holiday for 2 weeks, and I by the end of that trip, I was just so relaxed. All the pressure had come off the body. I was thinking, "Wow, this is what a normal person must feel like." So that kinesiology session was very much the beginning where I made the connection between feelings and a physical outcome on the body, and realized how important it is to manage that.
So thinking back to that session, and I imagined you went to many more, perhaps. What was the moment that made you realize, okay, like I need to do something different. I need to create something different. And how did that become tremendous help?
It took a little while. I did go back for a few more sessions, but I was so intrigued that I actually started studying. There's a great kinesiology college here in Western Australia. I went along to an open day and had a look at what one would learn over 3 years, and I became a kinesiologist in my spare time. So still continue stockbroking. Stockbroking was paying the bills. It's a reasonably well paying job if you're good at it. And so I studied for interest, but the more I was studying, the longer, like as the course progressed, I just found it fascinating. The whole quantum science, how the body works. I learned so much information about, well, things that were just not taught or shown in the West unless we look. And I just thought it was absolutely fascinating and amazing. And at the same time, I was studying sound healing because as part of that journey, I went to a sound bath. And my wife was trying to get me to go to a sound bath for years. And she kept saying, "It would be amazing. You'll love it. It's all these different instruments and you get to lie down. You feel really good at the end." And I couldn't understand at the time how that would help, how listening to music could relieve me of all the stress and the pressure of dealing with my clients' positions and trying to navigate the global financial crisis. But I went. The kinesiologist recommended that I go, and so I went along, and I was absolutely blown away with all the different instruments, all the different sounds, and yes, I did feel really good afterwards. So I studied sound healing as well, and as a musician prior to my professional career, I was really drawn to the sound healing and the meditations and the gongs, the Tibetan bowls, the crystal singing bowls. Loved it. And that's really, I think it was that passion for music that I've always had. And I find it really interesting that the universe had taken me back to something that I loved so much when I was younger. I had really let go. I'd never really sort of invested the time to continue playing guitar. So um, I think that was really the trigger. I think going to that sound bath was really the moment where I thought, wow, this is a genuine business that I could actually run. And at the time, probably back in 2016 in Perth, there was very little awareness of sound healing, and there was very few people doing it here in Perth. Whereas I understood in the eastern states, it was growing in popularity. So I could see this was an emerging industry, and I really wanted to be part of that here in Western Australia.
Okay. Tell us more about what a tremendous health, like what does it do, or what does a typical session or perhaps like an engagement look like?
Depends on the client. Like we offer a few different experiences. So with corporates, quite often I and my wife will come to a corporate office and we present either an interactive session, so a mindfulness session where we share the benefits of mindfulness and meditation. Often that includes breathing exercises as well. And often we also then incorporate a sound session afterwards. So people can be sitting at their desks and listen to the different instruments played around them. It's a very immersive experience and people find that very relaxing. It's amazing for problem solving. It's really good for regulation. Fantastic, obviously, for stress. And also it's a really good team building exercise as well. But we also do exclusive breath exercises where we have headphones. So I've also developed a soundtrack, which is an immersive soundtrack. So the sound rolls around the head. It's almost like someone's got like a fader or like an echo button that just moves the music. So it's very distracting. So the monkey brain can focus on the music, and the actual person then can go deeper into their subconscious and actually find the answers to whatever their intention is. And then we also do stuff like vision boards and goal setting and things like that as well. So, yeah, it depends on the client,
Sure.
but yeah, it's pretty exciting that we're able to bring that to corporates because probably 10 years ago that it would just be unheard of.
How do you think your background gives you an edge in connecting with corporate teams?
Well, both Savan and my wife, her name is Savan. We both worked in corporate roles, so we totally understand the experience that like for people that come and work 9 to 5, often later hours as well, the pressures. We also understand, the language that's used in offices as well. So we can very much relate to a time in my life when I was very closed to this sort of thing, and see it from both angles. Obviously, there's a lot of people that do understand what we do, have experienced it, are very excited when we come, and there's also a lot of skeptics that come to our sessions as well, and just they sort of turn up and at the end they're always amazed and blown away with how they feel and what they've also learned. So I think we have a unique offering in that we understand both.
Yeah, it sounds like it. So let's talk about sound healing. It's still misunderstood in some spaces, right? What do you wish more business leaders understood about its power?
Oh, well, I mean, it's the power of vibration. So, I mean, music evokes an emotion. So you can probably think of a bunch of songs that'll make you excited, and make you drive faster, work out harder in the gym, make you feel sad,
Motivate.
motivation, 100%. So it's probably the most accessible example of how sound vibrations can affect us. And I work in the same way. So whether if a band is recording music and they want to get people moving and dancing, they'll probably record that music at 180 beats per minute. So when you're listening to 180 beats, you want to move, you want to dance and groove, and sound producers understand that. And in the same way, if you want to relax and get people really calm and put them to sleep, then you want to be sort of working, in vibrations that are much, much lower, like around 8 hertz, 9, 10 hertz. as a background hum, and that's going to really relax the body and take the body into a state of relaxation. So,
Mm.
when we use the words sound healing, it sounds a bit woo-woo, but at the same time, the sound is actually what's repairing the cells in the body. So a good example is when we breathe. When we breathe through our nose, the little follicles that sit inside our nose, they emit a gas, a nitric oxide, which vibrates at 180 beats per minute. So 180 beats. So as they breathe in, those follicles are emitting nitric oxide. And that nitric oxide is then flowing down into the body and calming the cells in the body. That's the whole purpose of the nitric oxide. So vibration is so important in terms of what we call entrainment. So for example, if we take an instrument, so a tuning fork, which is tuned to 128 hertz, and you take another tuning fork, which is also tuned at 128 hertz, and you vibrate this one, the other tuning fork will start to move as well. They'll both move in synchrony. And you can see lots of experiments of this on the internet. And it's a little bit like how we get sick. So if you're getting a sore throat, you're catching a cold or something, then the cells in the body have lost the optimal beat. So they become a little bit lost. And they start to vibrate at a different frequency. So then when we take some medicine, you might take some lemon or some honey or something. That lemon and honey will have a strong vibration, and it will overcome the cells that are in the throat. And then eventually you'll start to feel a bit better after about maybe 15 minutes or 10 minutes or something. You'll start feeling good. And that's because the cells in the throat are now vibrating at the optimal frequency again. And then as the lemon or the ginger goes down into the body, the honey disappears, then you start to get the sore throat again. Half an hour later, you're like, I'm going to need some more of that lemon, because the cells have got lost again. So if we keep sending that vibration to the body, then the
Yeah.
body will respond. And the sound healing is exactly the same. We're very targeted about the vibrations that we're sending out. And therefore people are having different emotional experiences and different physical experiences.
I love that you shared that because, when I think about, I too, it's like if I get a scratchy throat or if I get a cold or I sense something's coming on, I think of it as like vitamin C or like, like lemon or getting the honey to like soothe the throat. But I never really think of it as a way of getting the vibrations right and helping your body to heal in a much more natural way. I always think of it as like, what's something like, raw honey or something natural, that I to believe like there's good components inside of that, right? That are supposedly helping you. But the vibration piece of it is a whole nother level of helping yourself heal. So thank you for sharing that. So you had mentioned in a previous conversation a powerful story involving a woman whose life was changed during one of your events. Can you share that again for our listeners?
Yeah, absolutely. My wife and I, we hold different retreats. So I think the one that you're asking about, we were in the Swan Valley. So it's a beautiful wine growing area. And we'd organized a yoga and sound healing event. So sound healing's really benefited from all the different yoga studios around the world. It's quite normal for a yoga session to close with some gongs or some singing bowls. And so a lot of yogis are very familiar. So with sound healing. So we combined the two, which is pretty normal, and we had a lovely day. But we themed the event as a point of difference around intuition. So we were working very much on doing meditations and working with frequencies which take the person to a higher level, higher state of consciousness. In fact, like earlier, I mentioned 180 beats. So when we are playing music at 180 beats for a long time, it can take people into a higher state of consciousness. And a lot of indigenous people around the world will dance around fires playing drums at 180 beats because it takes them into that higher state of consciousness. So we were doing a lot of different activities, a lot of meditations and things, and some yoga positions as well, which can really evoke a much deeper connection. The very end of the conclusion of the day sort of built up to a deep meditation. And a lot of the participants had really interesting and profound experiences and insights into the life and into their future, and made some really interesting life-changing decisions. One of the ladies came up to me at the conclusion of the event and shared a story. She was quite confused, and she explained that she was having a conversation with her parents in her meditation. So that's where she'd gone in her mind. Both her parents are deceased, and she explained that they were sitting on a park bench, and they were arguing about whether she was going to come and visit them. She didn't really understand, and she asked me. And as a life coach, we don't typically answer or make up answers and say, "Well, I think this." Like, we just encourage the person to sort of come up with their own reason and find their own solutions, because I'm not a medium. I don't know. So I suggested that she go home and, think about it. Maybe when she's driving home, if she's thinking about something different, the answers might come to her when she's driving, or maybe tonight, pay attention to her dreams. And she did. So the next morning she was in the shower, and she revealed that she pees in the shower. And she noticed that as she was urinating, there was blood coming out at the same time. And this had been happening for weeks, and she hadn't really wasn't doing anything about it. She wasn't seeing anyone. She wasn't asking any questions or investigating this. So she decided to go and get it checked out that day, and there was an operation. They had an operation on her that day. She went to see her doctor. The doctor showed her to the hospital. There was so I don't know what it was, but you can probably guess. So the next time I saw her, I knew nothing of this. She just came in and gave me a huge hug and said, "You've saved my life." I don't think I have. And then she said, no, you've saved my life. And do you remember that event that we did? And of course I did. And then she recalled the story, and I was really pleased. And then she went on to buy a house, because at the time she was just renting. She was actually sharing with a friend. So she didn't have a home, and she was procrastinating about where to live and what to do. And then so this moment then gave her a whole new chapter of her life. And she then purchased a house, and she found another job. So thinking about it now as we talk, like, it almost seems as though like she was kind of giving up on life, and then she made that decision: I need to get this fixed, and then let's move forward with life. And now let's go get a house, get a job, and just get my life back together again. So it was really amazing outcome. Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, so just to kind of hear her sort of maybe just kind of get more in touch and listen and kind of figure out what is this meaning, and then getting herself taken care of, and that breakthrough or getting through that. It's like kind of maybe something snapped or clicked for her, that she's like, gotta straighten up, gotta do the right things for myself and move forward. It sounds positive though. Very, very positive. When it comes to like workplace well-being, what are companies still getting wrong, and where's maybe the biggest opportunity?
I think understanding the employee's values. I think that's huge. Is the employee turning up because they just want some money? Is that it? Or do they have bigger dreams and aspirations? Are they coming in because they love the team? Is it the connection? Or are they turning up because they love the work that they're doing and the impact that's having on the community or certain people? Do they feel as though they're making a difference? I think understanding why people are showing up to work, and then supporting them and encouraging that, it could just be like they want a promotion. They may have a much bigger goal, but I found, like, from my experience when I was working in corporate, like a lot of the employees, if it's a sales team, they're judged on sales. Like if it's a support team, they're judged on, do they come in, do they get all the work done? And I often found that when people left, it wasn't because of the money. It was probably because they didn't feel as though they were seen, like particularly the support stuff. Like, obviously they felt very stressed. But I found that those that enjoyed the connection and loved the team would stick around, and they'd put up with that stress. So I think the opportunity is to recognize that, the employees' dreams and aspirations. And I think when we respect that, and when we understand that better, employers have got a much greater chance of retaining the employees, and you have a much, much stronger team and a much stronger connection between all the different members. And that can come through, like just, through simply, like an exercise of just writing down your values and understanding, what do you really like? What are your dreams? What are your aspirations? And then just talk about it, be honest about it amongst each other. And then you can focus on, you could then do mindfulness exercises around that, meditations, sound healing or breath work or what have you, but that can really support that and expand on that to create a better connection. So I think there's a huge opportunity there to better understand the team, rather than looking at everyone as a like, okay, you do this, you do that, and if there's a problem, okay, let's just talk about it. Okay, we're good now, and then let's move on. But having a bigger plan, a bigger understanding, I think is a huge gap in corporate.
Yeah, exactly. I was talking to someone earlier about kind of like the why and tapping into your why. And it's like, why do you come to work? Like, what's the drive behind it? But also as to like kind of what you said is, sounds like it's, really building that cultural aspect of that, even just like that foundation, and everybody comes to work because there is culture and you are appreciated and people do understand maybe more on a deeper level of your why, and figuring out ways to motivate, like we all need a paycheck. We all have things that we need to take care of, but like, what's that deeper purpose? So you mentioned a little bit like on the mindfulness practice, like, is there maybe an unconventional health or mindfulness practice you think more people should try?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, definitely. And the easiest one the one that we all do, we're taught how to speak, how to write, how to add up, how to do upper shoelaces. But the most important thing is breathing. And breathing through our nose is so important. And it's something that's not explained very much. Particularly, maybe if you go yoga or maybe if you're playing sport, there's some focus on breath. But there's seldom focus on breath when we're at school or when we're at university or anything. And yet it's probably the most important thing that we can all do is breathing through our nose, in and out through the nose. It's so important. And yet so not really explained very well. People who typically breathe through their mouth are breathing in a lot of carbon dioxide, a lot of oxygen. They're not regulating that properly, and it can cause anxiety. But when we breathe through our nose, the body the body regulates. Like the nose is, because it's so much smaller than the mouth, you're bringing in a lot less oxygen, a lot less carbon dioxide. The balance is better, and the body is able to remain much, much calmer, and people are able to regulate themselves and feel better. And it takes practice. It's easy to say, oh, just breathe through the nose. But quite often when we're playing sport, we'll breathe through the mouth because we need a little bit more oxygen. We do need that at those times. But if we practice and we focus on the breathing through the nose, we sleep better. We have a better dental. We have less viruses because the nose, those follicles that we talked about earlier, they don't just emit nitric oxide, but they also work as amazing filters as well. So we don't get sick as much. Our teeth are better. Our jawline's better. We don't get those illnesses so much, and we feel better. We feel so much better. So I think breathing, as crazy as it sounds, is massive and can really extend our life because they're the longest living animals on Earth are long,
Yeah.
slow breathers. So like the tortoise can live 190 years old. Whereas, like if you get small dogs that pant and breathe a lot and breathe through their mouth and nose, and like they only live like what 7 to 10 years or something. So think about the little birds as well. They don't live as long as the bigger birds that breathe slower. So yeah, slowing down our breath and breathing through the nose is just a really unconventional yet kind of simple thing that we can do, and probably the most important thing that we can do.
Great, great. Yeah, and I think about and it's like when you go to the gym or something, and if you have a trainer or something, it's like trying to tell you, on this way it's like inhale, and this way it's exhale, and it's just trying to make sure that you're breathing right. But it's like no, not just when you're like exercising or playing sport or going to the gym. It's like take a moment and try to put some concentration, right? Put some time and think about it, and deep breaths, and yeah, love it. This has been really insightful. I appreciate this. How can companies or individuals engage with you today? Like, what's the first step?
Oh, just send me an email. Yeah, so an email through our website. So it's info at Tree Mend Us Health. So there's in the Tree Mends Us Tremendous Health.com.au. And yeah, that's
Busy
definitely the
website.
best way to contact me.
Great. Okay. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate this, Andrew. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of The Wellness Growth Show. If today's conversation sparked something for you, hit subscribe so you don't miss the stories, strategies, and insights from the front lines of wellness innovation. If you're a founder, operator, or health leader exploring growth into institutional markets and have a story worth telling, I'd love to hear from you. Reach out directly on LinkedIn or YouTube. And if you found this valuable, share it with a peer or post it online. You never know who needs to hear it. Until next time, stay well, keep moving, and keep building what matters.